Lawyer and the Laundress came to me years ago. Just the relationship between the two of them and the daughter. So the widower with the daughter. And then the story kind of, bumped around in my mind for years until I matched it with this rebellion that I'd always been interested in. And as soon as I did that, then the whole story kind of came to life for me.
We'll talk about this and much more today. Welcome to a Writer's Day podcast.
Hey everyone, welcome back to a Writer's Day podcast. I'm excited to have you here. We're going to be listening to an author who's new to me, and she's brand new. First published book. I'm so excited to introduce her to you, and you can pre-order her book. And if you like what you hear on a Writer's Day podcast, be sure you follow me and subscribe so you can know about future author interviews coming soon. And head over to artbyruth.com, my website, to find out more about my upcoming release, Fatal Standoff, coming June 24th. And you can go pre-order it right now over at Amazon. Follow me on social media so you can know more about this story coming soon. It's book 2 in my Desert Shadows suspense series, and it follows Emma and Liam on another adventure in their private investigation business. So head over to artbyruth.com today to find out more about me, to sign up for my newsletter, so you can know more about the upcoming release and book launch party for Fatal Standoff. History has always captured her imagination. Christine Hill Suntz is with me today. And when she isn't writing, Christine teaches high school French, and brings her research in 19th century skills and recipes to life. So you know the drill. Grab your favorite beverage, a comfortable chair, kick back and relax as we listen to Christine talk about her new book. Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm so excited to have author Christine Hill Suntz with me today. Welcome to the podcast, Christine.
Thank you. I'm so excited to chat with you today.
Great. Well, you are a new author to me. I know many folks out there have heard of you, but I have not heard of you yet. And so I'm so ashamed of myself.
Oh no, I'm pretty new.
Well, I love meeting new authors. So this is so exciting. When your publisher said, hey, do you want to interview Christine? I was like, yes, look at that book cover. It's gorgeous. Listeners, you've got to check out the cover of her book. It's so beautiful. But why don't you tell... Yeah, they did a great job. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, so why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll talk about The Lawyer and the Laundress.
Sure. Thank you again for having me on. This is my debut, so I'm pretty new to this whole world of podcasts and having a published novel. I've been writing for quite a while, but this is my first book that's been published. I'm a high school teacher, live in Ontario, just across the border from Buffalo, New York. I teach French and German in high school. I live on a hobby farm, and my husband and I, we have 3 children. They are getting older now, so writing is getting easier and easier as they get older. They're in 12th grade, 9th grade, and 6th grade. So that's like my life in a nutshell there. Yeah.
Not much time, but it's getting easier, right?
It is. It does. Yeah.
Well, that's wonderful. So when you were a little kid and they asked you, what did you want to be when you grew up? How did you answer that question?
I said, definitely not a teacher, even though that's what I'm doing, because I come from a family of teachers. We live, it happens a lot, right? It runs in families, jobs. So my dad was a teacher, my brother's a teacher, my grandmother was a teacher. And, when you're in school, it's a very unglamorous profession. When you're in high school, like the last thing you really want to do is be a high school teacher, unless you've got somebody that really inspires you, which I did. So I thought maybe I would want to travel, maybe work in the foreign service. I knew I always kind of wanted to work with people and helping people. That was important to me. And I got a job teaching German part-time, and I loved it. And I realized, I think I'm a teacher. So then I went back to school again and to get my teaching certificate. And yeah.
Wow, that's wonderful. Yeah, I could see where being in a family of teachers would kind of make you go, nah, no thanks.
Yeah, it seemed very unexciting to like, 17-year-old Christine, right? So, but then sometimes we find our way back to those things, right? The things that we thought weren't glamorous, but are actually very satisfying. So,
hmm So when was the moment that you realized I'm a writer?
well, I've always loved writing. Like many guests, even on your podcast, you've listened to lots of episodes, and almost all of us are like, well, I grew up, I loved books and I loved writing.
Mm.
Um, that's kind of comes with the territory, right? I was a reader and I always wanted to write. I would always try to write little things, poems and things like that when I was young. And it was sort of more in my 20s that I kind of was like, okay, I need to be reasonable. I need to have a career where I have a good job, a stable job. And that's once I started, kind of seriously thinking along those lines, I started teaching. And then, little kid having children and working, you don't really have a ton of time to think about writing, but it was always in the back of my mind. Wow, I really wish I would write that story that I've been wanting to write. And I knew it would be romance because I've always loved romance. That's, you know, even Anne of Green Gables, I was in it for Anne and Gilbert, their story. So, yeah, like, and then finally in Canada, we have a pretty nice maternity leave. So I was off for about a year when I had my daughter, which is my second child, and I was like, I might never get a chance like this again. um, I need to write now. I need to see if I can do it. And so I wrote my very first draft of my very first book, which is in a drawer and will never, see the light of day, I don't think. But then, and yeah, like slowly when my kids were little, I would write at night. Now it's changed so I write early in the morning because at night I'm driving people places and sometimes I get a little bit of time in there to do things. But yeah, I always knew that I would love to express myself in that way. And I'm just so blessed that I got the chance to do it.
Wow, that's amazing. So I always like to ask my authors that I interview, how did you go though from wanting to be an author to a published author?
Well, that was hard. That was really hard. At first, I thought, I think we all fool ourselves when we start writing, like, oh, it's just for me, right? I don't need any, I don't need to get it published. I just want to see. But we always, in the back of our minds, are thinking about an audience, I think. Maybe not everybody, but I was for sure, always thinking somebody might read it. And it was actually January of 2021. So you'll remember that time. It was kind of
Mm,
COVID time. We had a lot more time on our hands at home than we usually do, no activities for the kids. I was teaching from home, I think, for a lot of that year, teaching online. And that's when I said to myself, like, let's do 1 hour a day. See if you can give 1 hour a day to writing and actually see if you can, make something of this plan you have in your mind. And so that's how I started. I just forced myself to give 1 hour a day. And slowly I started writing more. I realized, oh, I need critique partners. I have a great friend from childhood who is also a writer, and she helped me start on that journey. I joined ACFW. That was a huge step for me to enter the first impressions contest and get that feedback, and then the Genesis contest and get that feedback. Those were huge steps along the way. I went to my first conference and I was able to pitch. And although I didn't get a publishing deal out of those things, right, they were all
mm.
big steps on my learning journey. So
Aw, that's amazing. And so how did you get an agent and everything after that or?
yeah, I didn't get an agent. So my first book won the Genesis competition, and I was feeling really good then, right? Like, okay, this is it. And I sent it out on submission, like to agents, and it was, very kindly rejected by just about every agent I could, find that I thought might be interested in it. And so then I wrote this story, and I had an agent in mind, and I didn't know if she was open to submissions. So my agent is Rachel McMillan, and she's also Canadian. And so I thought, well, she would get this story because it's very Canadian, and she would kind of understand the background of it. And then I found out she was open to submissions, and I pitched to her at an online conference, and she said, send me more. And then it took me a few months to get it ready. I sent it in, and then it was like the happiest day when she said, yeah, I want to represent you. I think we can sell this story. So that was
Oh, that's
amazing.
wonderful. That's great. Oh, I love stories Happy endings.
Yeah, I know. It did have a happy ending. It didn't seem like it for a while, but it did.
Yeah, a lot of hard work rewarded. That's great. Well, now let's talk about The Lawyer and the Laundress. Tell us about this story and your inspiration behind it.
Well, I think I've always been really fascinated with this event, which is a real event in Canadian history. So all Canadian kids learn about this Upper Canada Rebellion in school. And we all learn about this character, William Lyon Mackenzie, who was sort of the passion and the brains behind this rebellion. And I think I was really fascinated by it because it was I don't think I'm giving anything away. It was a failed rebellion. It didn't really go anywhere. And the men and probably women who are behind the scenes they were so idealistic. They had all these plans they loved Canada already, even though we were still like a colony of Britain at the time, and they could see the potential. And they were so frustrated by the limitations of the colonial government and the lack of investment and a multitude of reasons. But they didn't have a lot of military knowledge. They didn't have a lot of resources. They sort of ran in idealistically and then like, oh, this isn't going to work, and it kind of fizzled out. And you would think that something like that would then just kind of like be a forgotten event in history, but it turns out that was actually the tide turned for Upper Canada, and Britain started paying attention. And it was really still considered to be the sort of the beginnings of modern governing and self-governing in Canada. So it's a really important event, and it always fascinated me, these idealistic rebels who didn't really know, how to run a rebellion. So yeah.
That's great. So it's set in Canada in 1837. Tell us about your characters.
So we have Sarah O'Connor. She's the laundress, obviously, in the title. You can kind of figure out a little bit just from the title, right?
Yeah.
She's a laundress, but she's not like any other laundress, I would say, in Upper Canada at that time. She can speak French. She's very well educated. She knows a lot about literature and history. And because of that, she's like, the other servants around her are very suspicious, and she just doesn't fit in well with them. The only friend she has at the inn where she works is a little girl named Evie, and Evie is there to take lessons with the inn owner's children. So she just comes in for the day and does lessons with them and their governess. And Evie is also like someone who just doesn't fit in. She doesn't know how to play the little social games that those girls play. She always ends up in trouble. And Sarah and Evie find each other, and they are kindred spirits. And suddenly Evie's education takes off. She starts learning and becoming engaged and telling her father, James, a pretty straight-laced lawyer, all the things she's learning. All of a sudden she's speaking French. She's talking about books and history and geography. And James is like, wow, that governess is amazing. Turns out it isn't the governess that she's learning from. It's Sarah. So that's sort of like what happens at the beginning to bring these two characters, the lawyer and the laundress, together. And it's really three characters, because Evie, James's daughter, is, just as much a part of this love story at the beginning.
Oh, I love that. So it's kind of like scandalous because Sarah is an educated servant. And that's almost unheard of, right?
Right. I mean, there has to be a story there. And of course, there is, right? A story. James knows right away, as soon as he finds out that the person Evie is really getting her lessons from is Sarah, he knows that no, 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 no. There's something fishy here. Absolutely not. This is not why I'm sending you to this governess. I'm sending you there to become a proper young lady. And so he forbids their friendship. And it could have just all ended there. But then, of course, where would the story be? Where would the love story be, right?
It has to go forward, right? So something happens to poor Evie that causes James to make a decision, right?
Yeah, so she gets sick, and of course, I did some research on what was happening at the time, and there were a lot of epidemics in Upper Canada, as there were all over the world. This time, it was a big time where cholera was a huge problem, but there was also a lot of scarlatina, which affects a lot of children. So it's very similar to scarlet fever. So Evie gets very sick, and she is calling for Sarah when she's sick. It also happens that Sarah lives in a poor area of Toronto, which at the time was called Irishtown. And she lives with Granny. We're not quite sure what the relationship is between them, but they're very close. And Granny is the healer of Irishtown and has created a tea that's really helping the little kids in Irishtown who get sick. So James hears about this and he's like, okay, she's got something that's going to help my daughter. My daughter is very ill and my daughter is calling for her. Maybe it's time I took a slice of humble pie and went and found this woman and asked her for help. And so that's exactly what he does. And Sarah is a little bit reluctant to get involved because he wasn't very nice to her. However, of course, Sarah loves Evie. She sees in Evie the child that she once was, and there's no way she's not going to help Evie if she can.
Oh, that's so neat. So it's a clean and wholesome marriage of convenience historical romance, right?
Yes. So where's the marriage, right? All the story I've been telling you, and there's no marriage. So that happens not immediately at the beginning of the book, as you can tell from how I'm describing it. But yeah, so when Sarah comes and she helps James, Evie does get better. But of course, she's been living in the house with them. All the other servants have left because of the Scarlatina in the house, and their scandal erupts. And it's not just scandal. There's lots of reasons, right? Does not look good.
Does not look good.
And yeah, so there are lots of reasons why Sarah and James end up deciding that maybe, of course, just a marriage of convenience, just on paper, just to provide some stability for Evie, why that might work. James is way too logical to get involved, to fall in love again, right? Because he's, he was married once, and that really hurt him, losing Evie's mother. So he's determined that's never going to happen again. And Sarah also has a very painful history that she is not going to fall in love again either. She's got a lot of walls built around her heart.
That sounds amazing. And then somewhere in all of this, the rebellion is happening.
Yes, exactly. So that's been simmering all through the story. I mean, there are a lot, characters that are involved with both Sarah and James who sort of become embroiled in this rebellion. And James, being a very logical, rational person, is like, there's no need for violence, right? We can all just sit down and talk this through, because he does recognize that there's quite a few problems facing this colony and that something does need to be done. But he's really convinced that, with just logical persuasion and calm thoughtfulness, he can, everything will settle down. It's not going to erupt into a rebellion. That's ridiculous. Of course, things don't go according to, his plan either.
Yeah.
And he ends up being captured, although he was just trying to, he wasn't joining the rebellion, but he's in the wrong place at the wrong time, and he's captured. And a man who sort of has it out for him frames him, and he's arrested after the rebellion as one of the rebels, and he could easily be convicted of treason. Some of the rebels that were caught were hung or were hanged, and some were sent to Tasmania. Some were eventually released, but their, consequences could be very dire for him. And this is kind of when Sarah's secret past comes into play, and she has to make a really difficult decision about her past in order to, secure her future.
Oh, so then we'll find out why she's this mysterious, educated servant, because that just usually doesn't happen.
You definitely will find out. Yeah, yeah, you'll definitely find out.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. What a nice story that has so many layers to it, and some secrecy and a little bit of suspense there for readers. Wow, that's really unique. I like this.
I hope readers will like it. Yeah.
And, I have interviewed a lot of authors and hear the premises of their stories. And I have to say, this is a first. It's very, very unique, set in Canada. I have not interviewed anybody who set their story there during this historical rebellion. So yeah, I can see why your publisher was interested. It's a very unique story. Well, I was just going to say, did you create your character, Sarah, based off of anyone you know or someone in history?
No, she was a creation. The lawyer and the laundress came to me years ago. Just the relationship between the two of them and the daughter. So the widower with the daughter. And then the story kind of, bumped around in my mind for years until I figured out until I matched it with this rebellion that I'd always been interested in. And as soon as I did that, then the whole story kind of came to life for me. I did do a fair bit of research, of course, about women's lives at that time. And that's often really difficult information to find out, right? It's easy to find out information about the political movements and rebellions and the military stuff, but sometimes it's hard to find. I want to know, how would a woman at that time have actually lived? And there are two Canadian writers, women who immigrated to Canada at exactly this time, and they were both sort of minor literary figures in England. And when they got married, they with their husbands, they came to Canada, and they both wrote memoirs and advice books for new Canadians, and they were invaluable. So I suppose both of them were important to me, but one, Susanna Moody is one of the sisters, and she wrote a book called Roughing It in the Bush. That's a little bit more about living outside of the city, but it was exactly how this colony would have appeared to a woman who's arriving at that time, and what was going on and what are the challenges that the women of the time were facing. And her sister is Catherine Parr Traill, and she wrote a book called The Female Immigrant's Guide. And that's the book that taught me how those women would have done laundry, and enabled me to sort of recreate some of those. I did lots of experiments at home, trying to make soap and trying to boil clothes and use a washboard. And it was really fun because I don't have to do it every week. It was fun to do it like one time, but yeah.
Right. You don't have to rely upon that. You just got a glimpse into what their life was like. And I bet it made you appreciate your washing machine all the more, right?
I never complain about laundry now, because I think how easy, even compared to, say, like my mom she did laundry and she had like a wringer washer, and she remembers getting her first dryer and how amazing that was. So I think laundry right now is not a chore we should complain too much about.
Oh, exactly.
Except when our kids just throw stuff in the wash and we think, did you even wear this? Or was it just on the floor? That kind of gets me still, but yeah.
That's true. Oh, that's so funny. Well, that sounds amazing. The Lawyer and the Laundress releases June 10th. That's just right around the corner. How exciting for you.
It's coming fast, yeah.
Yeah, so folks can go out and pre-order it right now. And that's the wise thing to do. How can they get in touch with you? Do you have a newsletter?
I do. So the best way to find me is on my website, and it's just my name, Christine Hill Suntz, SUNTZ.com. And you can sign up for my newsletter there. That's where I put the most up-to-date information. And if you sign up for my newsletter and you think, I might like this story, but I'm obviously a new author to everybody, I would love to send you the first chapter, and then you can get a taste of it and see if it's something that you would like. I'm also pretty active on Instagram. So Instagram is another good place to find me at Christine Hill Suntz.
Oh, very nice. Yes, I've been seeing the book, pictures of the book on Instagram frequently. So good for you, getting the word out.
That's great.
Wonderful. Well, so then what's coming next down the road for you?
Well, I just turned in my next book. It's also set during the Upper Canada Rebellion, so the same time period and very similar historical backdrop. But of course, totally different characters and story. So this is Charlotte and Joshua's story. Charlotte is a young woman who's from a very loyal to Britain family, a very kind of like the father fought in Waterloo, and being loyal to Britain and the crown is super important to him. But she has this brother who just won't follow the rules. And he takes off right before as this rebellion is sort of simmering, and rumors are going around that he has joined the rebellion. And her father is not well and not able to do anything about it. So she decides, well, I'm obviously going to have to go into the wilderness, figure out where he is, and bring him home so everybody knows that our family would never do such a thing. No one in our family would ever join the rebellion. The only thing is she's never been outside of Toronto before, and she has no idea. Outside of Toronto at that time was really only very few settlers had, there were settlements here and there, but it was still very much as it was. So she decides she finds this young man, Joshua. He is from the backwoods and he's come into the city. He's got his own reasons for needing some money, and he agrees to help her find her brother. And something tells me, though, it's not going to be that easy.
I have a feeling it won't be. Well, as Christian authors, we like to put themes in our stories that really resonate with our readers. What might be some of the themes that readers will see in The Lawyer and the Laundress?
One of the themes that I really was so important to me was I really wanted to write about people who had experienced loss. And I'm sure many of your listeners have experienced loss in their own life and in many ways. And it's, it's very devastating. And it's no less devastating for people of faith, because a lot of us, when we're young, faith is presented in a way where we think it sort of promises us, a good life. That's what it seems, right? And when things don't go according to plan, even though we've prayed and we've felt, sort of assured of our future, when we encounter devastating loss, it's very challenging. And sometimes, people might respond in ways that are like not very comforting. Like, God will always, open a window, it's not that bad. And for someone who's experiencing serious loss, which by the way is not biblical, right? That saying. And,
Yeah.
For someone who's experienced deep loss, this might not be really a comfort to them, right? There's no easy answers for some of the most difficult things in life. They're really things we have to struggle with. So it was really important to me that my readers could have a glimpse. I mean, this is a love story. It has a happy ending. Don't worry, everyone. But I wanted to sort of try to portray as much as I could the loss that James and Sarah had experienced. They've both come through really traumatic, difficult things. And I wanted to portray that as sensitively as I could and as realistically as I could. So that was really important to me, to not give up on faith, but to still have hope, but to not present easy and simplistic answers. And I hope I managed to do that. That's still a struggle for me to figure out how to find that balance. But
that's wonderful. That's inspirational. It really is, as an author. I think that's great that you're doing that. And it does really help the readers. They're entertained, that's true, by your story. And swooning, I'm sure, from the romance, but that's great that they have,
so.
Yeah, that they get that message of hope too. Wonderful. Well, Christine, as a high school teacher and a mom of teens, I know you are a very busy person, so I'm honored that you took some time out to chat with us today about your new book, The Lawyer and the Laundress.
Oh, Ruth, it was a pleasure. It still surprises me that people would want to talk about my book. This is all so new to me. So I'm really honored that you invited me to be on your podcast. Thank you so much.
Wow, wasn't that fun to listen to Christine Hill Suntz talk about her newest book, The Lawyer and the Laundress, her first book ever to be published. Oh, that's so exciting. I'm so happy for her and look forward to many more books coming from her. And so I thank you for listening. And I hope that you've been inspired by how Christine did not give up. She encountered some obstacles along the way in her writing journey, but she kept going. Finding the time to write, that's what it takes. And so The Lawyer and the Laundress will be published on June 10th from Tyndale. So go out and pre-order your book today and head over to her website to follow her on her newsletter, get on her newsletter mail list. And I've been inspired by Christine's story to make sure that I write something every single day and keep going forward on my writing journey, knowing that someone out there needs the hope that I put inside my stories. As Christian authors, that's what we're called to do. And so you keep going forward on your writing journey too. Small steps every single day. You are a writer, and that's your calling. That's what you have to do. And until next time, thank you so much for listening. God bless.